Hi, everybody. Good evening if you're in India, and good afternoon if you're somewhere else in Europe, and good morning if you're in the US. So I'm Srikanth, I'm host for this Entrepreneur Spotlight talk show. And today we have a very special guest, Balaji. Balaji, I know him through one of my juniors who studied with me in IIT Kharagpur. Balaji and he went to IIM Bangalore together. So Balaji is a graduate engineer from IIT Madras. He did his chemical engineering. And then he went to IIM Bangalore to finish his postgraduate in management. After working for Hindustan Unilever for a couple of years, he left the corporate world and he pioneered the idea of co-working space in Bangalore well before co-working spaces became popular. He was also the person who launched the Business Networking International in Bangalore. I consider him to be one of my business mentors. Today, we are going to talk about a lot of stuff, and some of the things that we are going to cover are why he left the corporate world to become an entrepreneur, how he started Bangalore's first co-working space about 20 years ago, his company's vision of enabling joy at work, his personal vision of helping entrepreneurs have a liberated life, his role as a mentor, and much more. So before we get into questions, what we will do is, Balaji, I'll allow you to take a few minutes and talk to us through your journey. I know you come from Jamshedpur. A lot of people don't know about that. So let's start from there. And then we'll let's see what's unfolding for us today.
Sure. Thanks, Srikanth, and thanks for this lovely opportunity to chat with so many entrepreneurs here. Always a pleasure to share one story. So I was, thinking what's the best way to capture the whole thing? Is there a couple of words that we can capture the whole entrepreneurship journey as such? And I think entrepreneurship, to my mind, is about expressing yourself. Expressing something that you truly want to give to the world, something very deep inside, and it's a journey of growing in the process and discovering oneself as well. So what did I discover and what was the growth for me? I think my whole entrepreneurial journey has been around what it means to work. What should people feel like when they are working? So my earliest relationship with work was obviously school, right? School is work when when we are children. So that is our relationship to work, right? And I can tell you, when I was a kid, young, before KG to 7th standard, so to say, school was something I really dreaded. I didn't like school at all. I didn't know why I was going, and my marks used to be somewhere in the bottom of the class. I always joke that people would look at my report card and feel good about their own grades. So it was like, why am I going to school? What is this all about? I think my parents would have tried all kinds of things, tuitions, counseling, pep talks, all of that. But nothing really worked. It was, my grades were like that only. Till one time, one particular event happened. So we were that time staying in Jamshedpur, and we just gone to the club to watch a movie, me and my parents, and we were just coming out. And in the parking lot, I heard a teacher call out my name. And you can imagine the dread that I'd have felt at that time. A very, very bad student in terms of grades, and the teacher is calling me, and my parents are behind me. So obviously, I didn't like that situation. But I felt trapped because I didn't have any other option. So I walked up to her, and the teacher said something. She said, Balaji, you're done well in your test. And something clicked in my mind. Possibly till that time, I didn't believe that I could do well in academics, right? So something clicked. And after that, I noticed that my grades started improving. I even read a book called How to Be a Good Student. And by the time I was in the 10th standard, I was among the top few students, maybe top 10% or 15% or so. And so, and I remember in the 11th standard when I was preparing for the IIT JEE entrance exams, I remember my mother coming and telling me, Balaji, I mean, I was putting in the hard work and all of that. I remember my mother coming and telling me, Balaji, you're working too hard, you should go out and play. And I was thinking to myself, why is she telling me this? because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I was truly enjoying what I was doing. It was a pleasure for me to prepare for the IIT JEE exam, even though I was putting in the hard work and burning the midnight oil. And I think my definition of work is that when you work, you need to be totally, I mean, you should feel totally immersed in it. At the end of it, possibly you're physically tired, but mentally recharged. And that's the definition of work that I'd like to hold. And of course, then I got into IIM, and later I got into one of the dream jobs in those days, which was joining the Unilever group. And very soon, within 3-4 months, I was feeling like that kid in, the small kid not enjoying work at all. And I was thinking, I'm feeling like this in one of the best companies, rated so well. And if I'm feeling like this over here, then the corporate world is not really meant for me. I need to kind of figure out my own path. And I noticed several other corporate practices which did not gel with me. And I was kind of thinking, hey, this is not what I'm really signed up for. Maybe later we can discuss what are those things. And I thought I should actually start my own business. And I started my own business, which is Golden Square Offices, way back in 1995. And there were a few criteria I used. I said, let's see, I'm not starting a business for any fame or whatever. I'm really doing it for something more fundamental. And that is, I'm doing this because I want to feel, it's a lifestyle decision I'm taking. So it's not about fame or richness or anything like that. It's about feeling fulfilled and feeling really in control of my own time. Can I do whatever I feel like while my business is running on its own? So I designed the whole business so that it can run on its own. And I've been doing that. That's how Golden Square has been set up. And the second decision I took was, if I was quitting my job because of this reason, how I felt at work, my team members should not be feeling like this. They should feel, totally engaged at work. Monday morning should be as much as a pleasure as a Sunday morning, because they look forward to what's happening at work. And so Golden Square Offices has been my, you can say, the crucible where I kind of experimented with a lot of these practices. How do we have highly engaged teams who enjoy work? And as an entrepreneur, can I be liberated? Can the business run on its own? And I must say, amazing team. I got an amazing team. And around 8 years back, a lot of entrepreneurs started asking me, how do you do this? How is it that your team members act like entrepreneurs? And how is it that you're able to spend so much time on BNI and so on? And so tell us more. And I was hesitating because I didn't think that I had anything, I was doing it for myself or not really doing it for others, right? So, but finally, one persistent lady, she kept asking me, how do you do it? And you need to tell me. And I gave her, I understood a business, had a conversation for 20 minutes, and I gave her 3 suggestions. I thought she won't take me seriously at all. But 3 months later, we were sitting in a group, and she said, Balaji, I implemented all your suggestions. And now my team is doing things I never believed that they will do. They're taking ownership. They're taking decisions to save money for the company. And suddenly I noticed that I freed up my time and I got so much time on my hand. So all the other entrepreneurs, they wanted to know, what did I share? And I said, okay, guys, there are certain concepts on how you organize teams and what work is all about, and happy to share. And that's how I started sharing it. And people started getting benefited, and I realized this is some of immense value to people. And that's how I started investing more time and energy in liberated enterprise creators. So now we got examples across the board: chartered accountants, lawyers, blue collar workers, advertising agencies, software companies, IT companies, from 5-member team to 200-member teams, who have attended these LEC workshops, benefited from it, and having a much more fulfilled life than what they were having earlier. So it's been an amazing journey that way to kind of help so many people. And of course, along the way, BNI happened, and really proud that so many people got benefited from that platform as well in Bangalore.
Sure. Right. So I picked up three things from whatever you shared, Balaji. One is about the golden square. Then engaged people at work in the business that you started, and you spoke about the three suggestions that you gave this person who went and implemented and made it big. I am curious to know the name Golden Square. How did that come?
Okay, so it's interesting. So the golden square, really, golden doesn't mean the color gold. It means golden things, the verb. Or adjective, is it? Adjective might be the right way to put it. So golden things happen over here. And the square is often a place, in a city. Square is a place where people meet and interactions happen, business happens. And so that's how the golden square name came about. Yeah, so and the interesting thing is the logo actually is inspired by the golden ratio. Uh, so and the other aspect of about the square was, so the golden square is essentially catering to small teams, whether it's an MNC or a startup, doesn't really matter. Our focus really is small teams of professionals, because we want to remove all the headaches that they might be facing when they're starting their journey in Bangalore. And in those days, 1995, even a telephone line used to take 6 months to get. So we had everything in place, ready for people to come and start their business. So the square was really, in the beginning of a business, a lot of things have to get into place. So you need to kind of figure out all the elements of your business at nowadays they call it minimum viable product, right? So essentially is that aspect that you need to figure out when you're starting up. And when you are able to figure out your square for the business, then you can, multiply it, you can scale it up. So that was the other reason why the square, so what's the basic building block for your business? Can you figure it out in the starting of your journey? So that was the thought process behind the golden square name.
Sure, sure. I also know the reason, I mean, not the reason, how you started the co-working space. Typically, IIT, I am grad, you have a product idea, you kind of, normally this is what we see at least in the last few years. And then you get some seed capital, then you get an angel investor, then you want to find a venture capitalist and Series A, Series B. And that's the route that a lot of people wanted to take, right?
Yeah.
But you had a very unique idea, and a lot of people don't know about that idea. And maybe I would like you to share that idea and how you made it profitable from the day one.
Okay, sure. So in fact, typically nowadays, when you think about entrepreneurship, you think about the angel, VC, that kind of a route. When I started my business, there was hardly anything called venture capital. That industry was just getting started. In fact, a lot of my friends, you can say from batchmates from IIM Bangalore, were kind of pioneers in that industry. I mean, ICICI Ventures used to be called TDICI. That was the kind of the first venture capital company. And so VC funding was as such not the way to go about, and especially if you were getting into a non-tech thing. Even now it's difficult, but those days it was unheard of. So the way I started was I took a bank loan from SBI, very high interest rates those days. It was like 18% per annum and so on. So so there was a different route for getting funding and so on. But I think you're talking about something else,
Yes.
So I was sharing with Shrikant about how come in this business where real estate, interiors and so on is a fairly capital intensive business. So how come I didn't, even when venture capital and so on, those kind of things became available possibly later, how come I did not pursue those things? And here it goes back to something more fundamental. I call it the entrepreneurial instinct, right? Each entrepreneur has their own instinct. So even if somebody had proposed to me, Balaji, why don't you take angel funding or take investors because it's a capital intensive business? My reaction would have been very, very lukewarm, right? Even I might have said yes, but I would have been not showing the enthusiasm for it. And why is that? So, and this is what I call discovering as an entrepreneur what is your instinct. Okay. And I've given a name for it. I call it the golden vibe. So for me, looking back, it really was that I valued freedom and liberty a lot, right? You can see the name over there also, Liberated Enterprise Creators. So for me, the kind of work environment, how I feel at work, I don't really want to be dictated by someone. My happiness should not be in somebody else's control. So I value that a lot, very, very deeply. And I was able to verbalize it much later. But the point was, it was in the subconscious working all the time. And I think that's the reason why I became an entrepreneur so early. I just could not be in a situation where somebody else was calling the shots. Uh, and so so it took a little while for me to discover that deep energy that, hey, liberty is what is important for me. And that's what I'm giving it to my team members also. A culture where people are able to be themselves, do their best, enjoy work, and so on. But once I realized that this was the motivation from which I was coming from, I was able to kind of then say, hey, this business does require funding and so on and so forth. But since I value independence so much, is there another way to do that? And that's how we developed a model called the management agency model, or the variable, and another model called variable rent model, where the building owner will invest in the interiors and so on and so forth. And we will have an arrangement with them so that we don't have to invest. Our competence is in running the business, and their competence is providing the infrastructure. And we'll make it a win-win arrangement so that they benefit, we benefit. Worst comes to worst, something doesn't work out. We shake hand and say goodbye to one particular branch, but our ownership structure is not changed, right? We still are in control of our business. So we came up with that model. And yeah, so that's the reason, to answer your question. So it's so important, I realize, and that's what I do in Liberated Enterprise Creators also, to help entrepreneurs figure out what are those really, really deep entrepreneurial instincts which are guiding them. Because once they're able to identify it, articulate it, explain it to themselves first, then they're able to explain it to others. They're able to share it with their team members. This is the reason why we are doing what we're doing. And based on that, uh, come up with strategic thinking, strategic decisions of the business.
Right.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so for us, what is most important is really fulfillment. Are people feeling fulfilled at work? Are they enjoying what they're doing? And are we creating the same experience for our clients and so on?
Sure. So I'll come to this golden vibe that you mentioned, the golden ratio that you mentioned a while ago. I'm curious to know those three suggestions that you gave that person who went and implemented and came back and said, hey, I see him. What are those three suggestions that you gave?
Yeah. So you see, there is a fundamental problem with the way work is organized, more or less around us, right? Starting with our schools, starting with our corporates, everywhere. And there are certain assumptions over there. Okay. So based on the assumptions, I have developed another set of assumptions called liberated enterprise, paradigm of doing business. And I just use these. I mean, my jargon might be different, but there are other companies, other movements around the world who do very similar things. So the lady who actually asked me this question, her name is Shweta Shetty, and she was running a company called Web Bazaar into websites. And she had organized her 30-member team, and she had around 300 clients, into very traditional, typical, and like any other corporate. Like, she had a sales team, she had a software development team, an architecture team, and back office and so on. And nothing wrong with that structure. But I gave her another design, and because we were working very closely in BNI and so on, so I think she just trusted my advice and she did whatever I told her to do. So what was my advice? I'll tell you so I'll just give you the prescription first, and I'll give you the reasoning later. So I just told her, divide those 300 clients into 5 or 6 groups. Okay. Divide your team into, I call those group circles, right? Divide those 30 team members that you have into these 5 or 6 circles. Make sure that each circle has all the competencies required to do the job, right? Someone good at sales, someone good at development, somebody good. So all the tasks that is required to done for a client, make sure that it's there in the circle, right? Then I told her, remove all designations, all titles, just get rid of them. Okay. Remove all individual incentives. Okay. And make sure that information is available to each circle so that they know how well they're doing. Are they generating profits? How much, and so on. If you want, not necessary. If you want, you can have group incentives, but don't have individual incentives. And so make information available to them. And third thing I told her was, get out of the office. Don't be in the office. Okay. So, I mean, I just gave her these prescriptions. I didn't think she'll take them seriously. You will kind of agree that, it's quite difficult to implement these kind of things. Not difficult. It's not, they're simple things to implement, but not easy because, it's not conventional. But I guess whatever she was going through, she would have thought, I think, worth doing it rather than suffer more. So she did it and she got the results immediately. What kind of results? Earlier, the software engineer would not budge from his laptop, right? He'll just be doing coding. If a customer complaint is there, the sales guy will complain on the software developer will complain on the architect, and the whole day Shweta would be spending dealing with these issues. Now, after the change, if there's a customer complaint, the software developer will go meet the customer and sort it out, right? Another change she talked about was, earlier they used to get corporate catering for their lunch, but a lot of food used to go wasted because people were getting their own lunch from home and this and that. So the team decided, let's save money for the company, let's stop the corporate catering. And she was saying that if I had taken a decision like that, there would have been an uproar in the organization that this company doesn't even take care of their employees, right? And so many other examples like this. And just so in my, so just change the design, which you get a different behavior. So of course, I just gave a prescription to her, and the prescription is, I would say, relevant for her organization and the kind of business she was doing. But there are certain principles involved around which I gave these prescriptions. The prescription. The first principle really is our understanding of work itself. Like I said, work should be something that you enjoy, right? Not something that somebody has to keep supervising you and keep telling you what to do and so on, right? So you need to trust your team members to do honest work. That's the first principle. Second principle is the whole management paradigm. The traditional management paradigm is based on a concept which is originating in the slave market or in the army or in the assembly line, right? Where by definition work is not something you look forward to. Who would like to kind of work in any of these situations, slave market or army or any, nobody would look forward to this, right? Unless you're forced to do this. So so the paradigm over there is work is something that you don't like to do, so therefore we need to force you to do whatever. So therefore incentives, carrot and sticks and so on. This third assumption over there is somebody at the top knows exactly what needs to be done, and therefore they have designed a machine, right? And people are just parts of the machine, and they need to do exactly what they've been told to do. And if you think about it, the echoes of this paradigm is there in our day-to-day, typical organization practices. What are they? There's a job description, there is KRAs, there's a review system to make sure that people are adhering to whatever they were told to do. So essentially, it's a machine paradigm at work. You're not expected to use your brain, you're just expected to do the job, right? So that's a paradigm. Now, there's a big flaw in that thinking. What's that flaw? That in a machine, if a nut gets spoiled, what happens? You can just replace that nut with another nut, right? Same specification and standards. But if a person is not doing the job, can you do the same thing with people? Do people come in the same standards, specifications, motivations, talent, and skill? They don't, right? I mean, there are no two people with the same standards and specification. Just don't find it, right? So that paradigm fails at that count. And what we want from people is engagement. We want people to really apply their mind and do things based on what's required to be done. So there's a different way of thinking about organizations, and that is to think about organizations as living systems, like a forest. Like what happens in a forest as opposed to a machine. In a forest, every entity is doing things out of their intrinsic motivation. Okay, so the tree is giving the flower because of its own reasons. The bee is coming to the flower for its own reason. And as a system, value is being created, and the forest is thriving, really. Okay, so that's how we need to be thinking about organizations. So there are certain, so once we start thinking of organizations from this basis, that people are going to do work because of their own intrinsic motivators, work is a pleasure to do, and then a lot of things change in an organization. And it's not rocket science. That's the interesting thing about this. It's just a different way of looking at things. And like for Shweta, within 3 months, she started getting those results, right? She just she just implemented it, right? Possibly didn't understand the principles behind it. But what I do in my workshops and so on is actually share these principles. What is the logic behind those, so that people will, adapt it based on their own business, nature of business, nature of clients, and what's relevant for them. So that's what Shrikant.
All right.
Yeah.
I have many questions. I'm just going to open the floor for questions. We'll get people to kind of, who is there? Please come on video and go ahead and ask your questions to Balaji. If you don't have any question, I got a lot of questions to ask, so I'm just giving you a chance. Yeah, go ahead, Vibhu.
Balaji, thank you very much. I mean, this is very interesting. I am an HR professional, so I can understand the organizational design that you're talking about and how you're talking about so-called quality circles and how is it actually then implemented. I have a clarification question. You talked about that we created our own model on management agency, and one more thing that you mentioned. Can you help me understand what's that model about? And it's more like a clarification question, which I could already complete.
Okay, so you wanted a clarification on the management agency model, right?
Yeah, management agency, and you said one more.
Variable rent. Variable rent.
Yeah.
So the model that we arrived at for Golden Square expansion is that, see, actually it's possibly new to this business, but it's something that that's what hotels do. So what hotels do, in fact, most hotels, I mean, you think about, so, I mean, most hotels follow this management agency concept. What it is, so the owner of the building, okay, is typically the owner of the business as well. And the brand is really managing that property as a hotel. Okay. So, and they have a profit sharing arrangement or a retainership plus profit sharing arrangement with the building owner. So that essentially is the management agency model. And the variable rent model is similar. The only thing is the entity managing the business in a variable rent model will, I mean, entity billing the client is not the building owner, but Golden Square itself. So that's a difference between the two. So we are the billing entities. We collect the money from the customer as well, manage the thing also, and we give a variable rent to the building owner based on certain parameters, which would include, say, occupancy and various other things. So depending on the building owner, we might design something for that particular property.
Got it. Thank you, Balaji.
Okay, so no questions. I'm going to ask questions. Okay, nobody. Actually, you got a question? I can go ahead and ask.
You can go ahead and ask, because I feel like over the last 3 months or so, we've had a chance to interact with Balaji so much that there are no questions coming to my mind right now.
Okay. All right. Balaji, you mentioned about this golden vibe and golden ratio. Please enlighten. I'm enlightened already. Maybe
Yeah,
you
sure.
want to enlighten
On
the
the-
audience.
Yeah, so I was talking about this entrepreneurial instinct, right? So I'll give an example to kind of illustrate what I mean by that. And then how do we become present to what that entrepreneurial instinct is and what is his golden vibe. So think about two highly successful entrepreneurs, Michael Dell and Steve Jobs, right? Both of them highly successful and same industry, the laptop industry, the computer industry, and so on. Now, if you really think about it, Steve Jobs couldn't have built Dell computers. Michael Dell could not have built Apple computers. The two organizations are so distinct and they kind of mirror what these two entrepreneurs truly believe in, right? Steve Jobs, it was always about creating that wow factor, right? Wow. For Michael Dell, it was always about efficiency. Can we reach the laptop, the computer fastest to the client? And can we do it at the least cost? So there are two different energies at work, two different motivations at work. And interestingly, in both these companies, when Steve Jobs left and Michael Dell left, the company started doing poorly, right? And they had to come back to revive the organization. And these two highly successful organizations, how come it's not that they didn't have top-notch talent? They had talent. It's not that they didn't have resources, they had resources. Then what happened? How come these two entrepreneurs had to come back? And if you really think, and that's what I call entrepreneurial instinct. If you really think about it, how decision making happens, and typically in any small entrepreneurial organization, people come with choices to the entrepreneur and say, okay, shall we do it this way or that way? Yeah, right? Or these are the options. What shall we do? And the entrepreneur will say, okay, I like this option. Do it in this manner or that manner, right? And I like it. I don't like it. So that's typically how that is happening. And people are kind of saying, okay, the entrepreneur is saying this, so let us do it that way, right? So that's how decision making is typically happening. The entrepreneur himself may not know why is he saying yes to something and no to something else. And why is this? Because these are very, very gut related decisions, quick decisions. It's gut feel, right? And that's the problem. So because when the entrepreneur is not there, and since others don't know exactly how the decision making happened, that particular entrepreneurial instinct is no more there, and people don't have a rudder or direction compass to go forward. And therefore, it becomes important for entrepreneurs to be able to, first of all, identify for themselves what that criteria is. What is the, how are we adding value to clients at a very, very fundamental level? And what is it that the business what are the key principles around which the business has to run, right? And these are not universal principles. These are very, very specific to the entrepreneurs, very specific to the organization, right? So you can't copy paste it from one organization to the other. You need to really introspect, figure it out, and articulate it. So the golden vibe is a process that I developed so that people can become present to what is their own deep motivation. How are they filtering information in the world and making meaning out of it? Okay, what is driving them? What is making them do what they are doing? Okay. And essentially, it's a set of emotions that that particular person is valuing a lot, right? And it is in the subconscious. It's not, so I bring it to their awareness. Hey, and they realize, oh my, I didn't even realize that this was what was motivating me. Okay, because it was in the subconscious. And once they become conscious about it, they are able to talk about it. They are able to, share it with others. They are able to share it with a team that this is the reason I decided what I decided. For example, now I can share. Now I kind of became aware that liberated is a very important emotion for me, and therefore for my team. I can tell my team we need to figure out another way so that we don't lose control over the company. We don't lose control. You see, I can put it into, since I'm able to articulate that deep feeling that I want freedom, I'm able to now tell my team member, this is how we are going to decide. this is a core value or a principle that we are not going to violate. And now let's work around it and figure out a solution, right? So that is the kind of clarity in decision making which happens once we are able to identify those emotions. So that's so yeah. So the golden vibe session, I mean, Shrikant, you're done. I've done it for you. So it happens over an hour. In an hour, we kind of take you into a deep introspection exercise where you identify, you discover this thing. It's already there. You're already using it, but you become aware of it. And typically, it's a aha moment. So after a couple of days, we do another session where we give you a lot of tools on how to harness that emotional value that you want to add to others.
Right. Yeah. So in the beginning of this conversation, I heard you say something very important. Entrepreneurship is a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah, very much.
What did you, yeah, what did you exactly mean by that?
Yeah, see, if there's, that entrepreneur instinct or whatever, I mean, that itch, I think all of us have it. Need not be only entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs have a, one advantage that they can create whatever they want, right? If you're working in a particular organization, then you kind of have to fall into the broader paradigm around which the organization works. But as an entrepreneur, there are no set rules that there's the only way to do things, right? So you just kind of go about things the way you feel like. And in that journey, you start discovering yourself, and every challenge is a challenge for you to kind of figure out what next and grow in that process. So therefore I believe entrepreneurial journey is actually a journey of discovery and growth.
Sure. Right. So for somebody who is looking at you from outside, they may be feeling, oh, Balaji went to IIT Madras and then he went to Bangalore and then he worked for HUL and then now he's become an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, I know that it's not a journey of success all the time, right? So you go through your valleys and the peaks and the valleys and the peaks, a journey, right? So what are some of the hard times that you had to go through to be where you are today, Balaji?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think lots. I mean, like you said, that's a given, right? As an entrepreneur, you have to face issues that you have never faced before, and you need to figure out things. So maybe I'll give you a couple of interesting ones, and how different businesses that I got involved with or started happened because of a challenge, right? Uh, so the so maybe first, since I was also involved with networking, right? So I'll give you my first challenge in business. So I'd said that for Golden Square, we had applied for a loan in fact, SBI, State Bank of India. So we had applied for the loan in 1994 sometime, and I had given a token advance to the. In fact, I borrowed some money and also bought the place in Vital Malia Road. And there was an in principle approval letter also from the bank. So based on that, I kind of got all this done. And later we went on a holiday, came back, and there's a letter from the bank saying that RBI has come up with a policy that no more real estate related loans. So I was in a soup. I mean, what do I do now? Right. So based on this, I've made a major commitment over here. So then I started seeking advice. So there's the first lesson I learned, and I started seeking advice. Went to all the contacts, my father-in-law's contacts. He was in Bangalore, so a lot of people. What do I do? So my father-in-law suggested that I should, we should go Aarti, and all. Aarti was there. By the way, I didn't mention Aarti. Aarti has been my partner in both business and life, all the businesses and life from day one, right? So we went and met a business person, and he said, see, SBI is a very ethical bank. You can't do any hera-feri over there. So the only way you can do it is you need to get to the person who is the decision maker in Bangalore and put your case forward, because you've got a genuine case over here. So then I started asking around people who know someone who knows this decision maker. Okay. So finally I got through a friend to a friend of friend who knew this person. And I went and presented my case to this friend of and said, this is what, and he took what, fancy, or he liked me, young guy starting a business and so on, whatever. Mr. Subramaniam, his name is. And he said, okay, fine, I'll see what I can do. And a few days later, I got an appointment with that person in the bank. And I went there and put the case forward. And he said, yeah, you got a genuine issue, but I can't do anything from my this thing. When the paper comes to my desk, I'll give it a favorable hearing. So you need to make the papers travel to my desk, right? That's what his advice was. So I worked the other way around. I started working with the branch, and onwards the paper, and then finally I got the loan. Maybe one of the few loans that got approved that time. So the lesson really is, networking does pay, right? And you need to really reach out and seek advice and help and support from people who are in your network. And if your case is really genuine, people will help you out. So that was the first one. The second one was a business which happened because of a business challenge. So this was in 2000, 2001, where just around the dot-com bust was happening. And suddenly in Golden Square offices, Vittal Malia Road branch, occupancy rates were going down. And I was wondering, what do I do? And this is before internet. This is before internet, before Google, all of that, right? So the problem we were facing was, how do I reach out to clients who might be looking for space? And business center or Golden Square, co-working space, whatever you call it nowadays, there's a marketing challenge. You don't know where your clients are. Okay. So even if you have a sales team, you don't know where to send them. Okay. So how do we crack this problem? So finally, we came up with a solution. We called it, the watering hole solution. So like in a jungle, you have animals coming to one particular watering hole, right, to have water. So I said, okay, where are new companies to Bangalore? Where are they likely to gather? So we identified some 100 locations in Bangalore, like, CB Richard Ellis office. Because what would new company coming to Bangalore do? Decision makers do? They're going to go figure out, right, what it is like to do business in Bangalore. So they're going to meet people. They're going to figure out. They're going to, do all that research before even they start a business. So what are these places? So hotel rooms, lawyers, HR, large HR companies. All of these are watering holes, right? And in all of these places, we put a dispenser with a magazine called, those days it was called a business handbook. So Business Gyan Business Handbook, which will have a lot of useful information for new companies in Bangalore, right? How to register your company, how to get a software technology park license, and various useful contacts. Remember, before Google, right? Search is is not there at all. And we would leave these Business Gyan copies. It used to be Reader's Digest size on the reception tables of all these organizations, right? And hotel rooms as well. And that solved our, we realized that the problem we were facing, others would be also facing, right? Real estate companies, furniture companies, lawyers, advertising agency, all these companies face similar challenges. How do we reach new clients? So we started collecting advertisements and classifieds in this magazine. And what was a marketing cost became a new business for us. So Business Gyan magazine grew quite substantially after that for the next 7-8 years. And of course, by that time, the whole world changed in terms of Google became very popular, internet became very popular. The whole idea of looking at a directory for information, that was not anymore happening. And by 2009, we realized that we were getting more inquiries from our website, Golden Square website, than from the magazine. And advertisers were not renewing their ads. So that's when we took a decision to shut it down. But in the meanwhile, another challenge we faced, that is, my sales team in Business Gyan used to say that we need more leads. Give us more leads for the new advertisements, right? And that is when I was introduced to BNI. I went to Mumbai, checked out a BNI meeting, fell in love with it. Imagine people standing up and saying, we have a referral for you. I said, this is going to solve my sales team problem. So I need to start BNI straight away in Bangalore. So that's why I started BNI in Bangalore, because I realized my problem would be so many other people's problem. And that was another exceptional journey. Yeah, so that's what entrepreneurship and you need to, I mean, somewhere down the line, once you decide, hey, entrepreneurship is it, I don't want to do anything else, then
Right.
then you figure
Right.
out what do I do. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Interesting. So I know a lot of people, Balaji, they incorporate. They, as you mentioned, they have this instinct or itch or whatever you want to call it. They have an idea. They quit and they decide to start something in their own. When they face the first failure, they just want to close everything and go back to corporate. I come across many people who want to give up and go back. What would be one piece of advice that you would like to give people who left the corporate, decide to do something in their own? Now things are not working, they just want to go back.
Yeah, so I'll share my own story. The same question happened to me very early in my entrepreneurial journey, maybe sometime in 1996, 97. Um, I was really struggling. It was really, really tough because whatever money I was able to get out of Golden Square was going to the bank. Like I said, 18% interest was huge, and was a real struggle. And there is a very visible opportunity cost if you're a IIT IM, right? You see your friends traveling in first class, aeroplane, five-star hotels, this, that, and you're kind of struggling to meet ends meet. So one of my clients in Golden Square, she told me, "What are you doing here?" She's looked at my, profile or whatever, and she said, "What are you doing here? Come and work for me." Okay, so for the next 2 weeks, I was really, did I make a bad choice over here by becoming an entrepreneur? Should I really go back to the corporate world and so on and so forth? And then a lot of introspection and so on and so forth. And finally, I kind of said, I kind of need to burn that bridge of, quitting entrepreneurship. I burned that bridge. I just told myself, this is it. You need to make it work. Okay, you quit because you don't want that life. So you want something else. You want to create something of your own. And therefore, you just make it work, figure out how to make it happen. And so I think that kind of a decision to make it happen somehow or the other, we need to come to that particular point, and then I think there's no looking back. You'll figure out a solution. For every problem there's a solution, right? So
Yeah, every problem there's a solution.
yeah.
I like what you said. In fact, today I can't disclose names. Today somebody came to my office. She's been in the corporate world for about 20 years, and she left when she was a senior director for one IT company 2 years ago because she wanted to start a consulting thing in her own, and then she also became a credential coach. And she was very down. I'm meeting her for the very first time, face to face. I realized that she stays like 4 kilometers away from my place very recently. I thought she's somewhere else. Though I've interacted with her on Zoom calls, and the moment I got to say, "You come to office, I want to talk to you." She's like, "No, I'm going to give it a shot for about 1 more year, and if things don't work, I'm going to go back to corporate." I told her, instead of going back to corporate, I would like you to go back to the reason why you quit the corporate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you do that, maybe you will stick to what you're doing. Okay,
Yeah.
Krishna wanted to share something. Go ahead, Krishna.
Yeah, I'm just grateful that I'm able to be here because I consider you and Balaji as my teachers as well. You in coaching and Balaji basically how to look at business and how to structure. So when people come to me, many times they feel that I know everything and so many things can be done as if I'm sitting with a magic wand. Okay. So, but the reality is we are all human beings, and when things were not the way it was supposed to be is exactly when I think Balaji intervened and took me through the golden vibe and said, you are in the right track. You just need to put systems in place. And he taught me how to implement those methods, just some adjustments in the mindset, and I could start seeing things happening. And what I understood clear is that to have that clutter-free mindset, and whatever happens, we are there, we can face it, we have to find a solution through that. So those are the great things. And I have been working with him, I think from 2011. Even when I took a break in BNI, I went back because I knew as long as he's there, I have a guiding light and a guardian kind of a thing. So today, listening to the talk was a reinforcement that, giving up is never an option. Finding a way is the only option. And making a system the way it reflects our own way, our own goals would be the way ahead. So I thought I'll just register my gratitude by coming in. Thank you, both of
And
you.
thanks, Krishna. And especially if you have something, such an amazing value to provide, and Krishna is into yoga, and, I mean, it's such a amazing value that you have to offer. So I don't think giving up is an option at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are running out of time. Balaji, I really, in fact, we know each other for a long time. We just got disconnected. We got reconnected through Krishna. I have derived a lot of value sitting with you through that golden vibe session, and then doing those couple of sessions, your workshops. Maybe if you can take about another 5 or 7 minutes to talk through what exactly do you do in the liberated enterprise creators for entrepreneurs. And I have built a community of coaches. There are like some 160 coaches, and all of them, when they talk to me, hey, I don't know how to go about doing things. Maybe if you can just share certain things that you do in your workshops, some of the coaches are going to definitely help.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah. So what's the outcome that we're looking for from the workshops and what we do in liberated enterprise? The outcome really is, can the entrepreneurs as well as team members feel fulfilled at work? Can they enjoy their work, be highly effective, create value, and at the same time feel fulfilled? Now, there are two essential foundational elements that need to happen for this particular result to take place. One is, I call it alignment. Okay, so do team members know exactly what needs to happen or how to take decisions when the entrepreneur is not around, right? So that is one aspect. And the second aspect is the organization design. So are we designing the organization so that self-organizing can happen? Okay, there are two basic foundational aspects. Now, to get the alignment right is where I do this golden vibe exercise, because first of all, the entrepreneur himself needs to understand, is he aligned internally? Is his subconscious and conscious thinking, logical thinking and emotional thinking, are they aligned? And that is what the golden vibe exercise really does. And the entrepreneur becomes very clear, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And with that clarity, we have a workshop called manifestation. So in that manifestation workshop, which happens in a group of 10 to 15 people, where the entrepreneur is able to become very clear about the purpose of their organization. This is what the organization is about. And there are certain tools which help them kind of think through this. But there's also another aspect. Okay, fine, that's the why for the organization, but how do I go about it? So there's certain tools in terms of how do we add value? How do we go about adding value to clients and to team members and so on? And interestingly, there are different ways of adding value. For example, Warren Buffett will add value in a different way. Bill Gates will add value in another way. So there are 8 different styles of adding value. So I kind of take them through that. Then once it is done, how do you create a business strategy for your organization, which is so that you will be playing to your strengths, right? Everything is aligned to your strengths. So we kind of get into that kind of a mode. The whole idea is, can we create an organization? So in my mind, a business is an arena where, as an entrepreneur, you can play your natural game. So figuring out what your natural game is, and therefore then designing your stadium so that you can play your natural game, or your business to do that. So these are the tools that we have in the manifestation workshop. So this is how the alignment happens. How can you communicate so that everybody is clear that this is what the business is about? Then we have the organization design and practices aspect. So in the methods workshop, all these workshops are full day workshops. So in the mindsets workshop is really about what are the principles around which we can build a self-organizing team. How do we look at work? How do we look at motivation? How do we look at teams so that they are self-organizing? And why is it that it really works? Why is it so effective? And can we really take the jump, that leap of faith? So I kind of make sure that people get that belief so they're able to do that. Then the third workshop is really day-to-day practices. I call it the methods workshop, because day-to-day it's all about conversations. So how do we do these conversations very effectively? For instance, there might be conversations where people don't see eye to eye. So how do we have that conversation so that everybody is aligned and the conversation is very productive? How can a team lead have a coaching conversation with their team members when they're feeling stuck? Typically what happens in teams and with entrepreneurs is they'll say, okay, you can't do it, I'll do it because deadline is coming, so let me take on the load. That is not useful at all. So how can you have a conversation so that at the end of it, the team member has a twinkle in their eye and they say, okay, you know what, I figured out what to do and I'm going to do it. They take ownership. So how do you have conversations like that? How do you structure meetings so that everybody is participating fully? They're able to open up and share problems and issues, emotions, and therefore you're able to come up with better solutions. So all of these kind of things, how do you take decisions even if the team lead is not there and everybody is fine with it because the manner in which you took the decision is everybody is aligned. So these are kind of the day-to-day practices, tools which happen in the methods workshop. So 3 workshops and the Golden Vibe one-on-one session is really I call it the curriculum in liberated interest creators. Yeah. So this is the basic stuff.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to know more details about it, is that something that you can share on the chat so that they can make a note of it?
Sure. It's www.lec.fyi.
www.lec.fyi.
I'll just put it here.
For your information.
Yeah, correct.
Correct. I think I got it right. Sorry, I put it to Krishna. Why did I put it to Krishna?
Yeah, I put it to everyone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Balaji. Thank you
Thanks
so
for that.
much for taking time. I know you're a very busy person. You are creating entrepreneurs like I don't know. Every day there are many entrepreneurs getting created and getting the confidence to run their business. We wish you all the best on your endeavors, and we look forward to see you. I already spoke about a special session that I want to do for the coaches face to face. I'll invite you and I look forward to see you there.
Sure. Thanks, Srikanth, and wish you all the best. Wish everyone amazing, fulfilled life.
Thank you.